Hi, this is Brian Manco from the Rocky View Entrepreneur Series. As you know, I've been putting together a series of interviews with entrepreneurs and people that are inside my own practice, as well as people that are an extension of my practice who could come in and help clients in a sort of consulting basis in different ways. So tonight we have Laura Bechard from ProVision, and she's going to tell us a lot about her practice and how she can help potentially any of you as well. So Laura, welcome.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, so tell us about yourself. I mean, I know that you're a CPA and you're a CMA and an MBA as well. So tell us more about your background.
Thanks. My background is pretty eclectic. So I started out working in as basically an assistant in companies that were involved in oil and gas exploration and development, and did a lot of partnership reporting. And as I moved through my career, it brought me into education. And so I had a professional career teaching business for over 25 years, including leadership roles in the post-secondary sector in Alberta. And at the same time, my husband and I were taking over the family business. And for us, that's a family farm in Saskatchewan. So over the 35 years that we've been together, and I say, yes, I'm still on my starter husband, we have been taking over the operations from my in-laws, ultimately buying them. And now we are in the process of actually doing the same thing with our children. Of our kids are coming into the family business. So I'm a farmer. I've got, in addition to my academic background in the accounting world and finance, I also have a master's in education, and I'm certified in change management.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so then tell us about your business. How did you get started in this business, and what is your business?
So when I retired from the post-secondary sector, I really reflected on my path as, at the time, really the spouse of an entrepreneur. And I reflected on some of the challenges that we had in our family relationships when you're involved in a family business. And as I reflected on that, it didn't have to be that way. And so I decided that I was going to support and mentor other family business owners throughout their succession and throughout the time that they were sort of transitioning their business. And while these entrepreneurial couples were grappling with having children and running the business and time in and out of the business and family priorities and business priorities, that if we could put some systems in place that lessened the pressure that was on the family system. And I jokingly say to my family law friends, I said, my job is to put you guys out of business, because there's too many relationships that break down when we've got families and we've got businesses. And I said, it really doesn't have to be that way. So I launched my practice back about 7 years ago with that in mind. And that's taken me through working with siblings who are in business together, with best friends who are in business together, with what we would consider typical family businesses, and brought me more into developing owner-managed and owner-operated business leadership with small business management styles. And that brought me even more evolved into exit planning and acquisition planning, so that as we're talking about our path to exit a business, once we've put all our blood, sweat, and tears in starting, growing, and expanding it, we want to make sure that that legacy kind of lives on for either a new owner or the next generation. So my practice has really morphed and evolved over the years that I've had it. And that's what I do.
Oh, that's great. So really, okay, so let's say somebody comes along and says, Laura, I'm getting a little older. I'm not sure what to do. What are some scenarios that you've seen, and what could you kind of, like, imagine if you could put together kind of a just an imaginary case of somebody walking into your office. What are some of the kinds of things they would run across?
Well, one of the first things that we do when a business owner comes in and is maybe thinking about that retirement of what I'm thinking, I want to retire from my business. They may or may not have family members who would be interested in taking over the business. So we sort of explore what the current situation is like. We ask them questions about their, some of the practices in their business, some high level information, so that we can get some ideas. Is this business even sellable? Is there something here that we can sell? In some cases, when the business is all personal relationships and there isn't a lot of tangible assets, sometimes we have to look hard to find something that's another business owner would find valuable enough to purchase. Those goodwill kinds of things, or the brand, or the followers, or the Google reviews, all do add up to value. But we have to find the right buyers that are willing to pay for that, rather than just start their own business and compete. So it's we start with sort of that assessment of where are we at, and what are the pain points. How sellable are you? We do have some assessment tools that we use that will give people a benchmark of how sellable their business is. And then if we continue our work together after developing an exit plan, where we'll figure out a few scenarios. So the most popular ones really for owner managed businesses, the most likely exit scenarios are selling to an employee or a contractor, selling to a family member, whether that's a brother, sister, child, cousin, somebody that's in the family, or looking for someone within their sort of their ecosystem to buy them, whether it's a competitor looking to grow through acquisition, or whether it's somebody upstream or downstream in their supply chain. So those are most likely acquirers, or for a lot of owner managed businesses, because they've got to see themselves coming in to an owner managed role as well, for that to be a successful transition.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the most important things to think about as, running your business. And it's one of the most important things that nobody ever thinks of, is like, what do I do at the end of the day with this? Have I
Yeah.
just worked like heck to have this business and really just bought myself a job? And can I
Yeah.
sell this at the end of the day? I think that's a really good way of thinking. And, discussions with you would have people begin to think about that.
Yeah, and I think I said the analogy I make, it's like having a kid and raising your family, right? Like our primary responsibility as parents, the day that little baby is born, is to raise an independent human being. And that starts from the day they're born, and helping them be independent, which is why we go through the terrible twos, because they're wanting to exert their independence. And that's why we have teenage rebellion, because they're exerting their independence. And so, so that analogy holds true for your business. So at the day that you start it, your goal needs to get that business as independent of you as possible, so it can be sold, it can go on with a new owner, and it can have a life of its own. And that's often the analogy that I have with the people that I talk to, is how do we get this baby to be more independent, because now it's 40 years old and it's still living at home. Let's figure this out. And as soon as we start figuring out what those pain points are and what the path is, and really, Brian, lots of times it's mindset. It's personal mindset of what they believe about themselves and their business, their own identity. And so when we start working, we're also looking at someone's personal readiness to exit their business. Like do they have a life outside of work?
Mhm.
Do they have friends outside of the business? Is their identity all tied up in this? Because sometimes we have to start working on that, and helping them kind of have things to look forward to outside the business. One of the clients that I've been working with for over a year, I tell him about the shelf syndrome, and he says, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, as soon as we start delegating things and getting things off your plate, I said, I don't want you to fill your plate up with more work things. I said, when you take those books off the shelf that are work, I said, I want the leisure book to go on there." And so now, a year later, I mean, he's taken more vacation time than he's ever taken, and he's got 2 half days a week that are blocked off. For one of those half days is fun with his wife, and the other half day is fun with his friends. And it's so he's enjoying his business far more, because he's been successful in doing some reorganization, delegating, putting some processes in place so that he can step away and enjoy reap the rewards of a successful business.
Oh, that's great. So many of us just get mired down and we become employees inside of our own company that we own, but we're
Yeah.
enslaved to it. And yeah, no, that's because of the purpose of leverage. And you just get other people to multiply yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
many of us don't do that. Like, and accountants like myself are terrible at that. But
Well, and people think about leverage, and I said, it's really about using other people's stuff. And I said, whether it's other people's labor, other people's money, other people's capital, there's lots of ways to get leverage. But if we don't get leverage, we max out. Our capacity is at is usually at a level that doesn't generate the cash flow that we want for the lifestyle we want.
Right. And you can only work so many hours per week anyways, you just kind of max yourself out. Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So how has COVID treated you? How's COVID been an impact in your business?
In my business, it's been had a pretty big impact day one with a lot of the clients that I was working with on expansion plans and on exporting and starting to look at how do I improve my distribution. It's just sort of really got into the scarcity mindset and contracted. So a lot of that work initially slowed down. And so we spent that time really giving back to the business community. So throughout the month of April, we ran, I think, 21 webinars to help people through the pandemic. And we had pivoting and how to negotiate with your landlords, how to decide if you really should defer your mortgage, even though you could. So we put a whole series together that really attracted some international participation, just to say, we're giving back. We've been here to mentor and support the business community. And so we gave back through lunch and learns. We gave back through how to re-engage, how to relaunch, what needs to change in terms of now building more trust with your audience, with your customers, so that they're more assured that you actually are following the cleaning protocols and you are keeping the customers safe and you are keeping your employees safe. And then we've morphed really more into strategic alliances. In the exit space, there's, as you can imagine, a lot of activity in the exit space with businesses that are struggling and really working through an orderly liquidation for those that we can't sell, that are in industries that are really getting hammered by the pandemic. It's also a really good time for family succession because, as you know, in your practice, Brian, that CRA doesn't like you giving things to your family members. But so now when we've got a business valuation that we can justify is a little lower than it was pre-COVID times, this is actually a good time to start freezing some of those estates, putting those succession plans in place, because CRA is going to have a hard time contesting the valuation lower now during the pandemic and in certain industries. So family succession, selling to the employees who are like our family, these are good times to be executing on those plans because we can justify lower valuations. And that may seem contrary when you're talking about selling your business for the most you can get for it. But for those of us that are passing our businesses down to family or employees that are like our family, we often don't mind gifting a little bit of value to those people who are close to us. It's different than if we're trying to sell it to an independent third party that we really don't know from Adam.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that's the most pressing thing in the mind of any farmer, any farmer that you talk to, any farmer that I talk to. Well, how do I pass this on? What's the succession planning way? Most tax efficient. So
yeah, and you guys do a lot of the work that we do is in partnership with accountants and lawyers, because we're not the technical experts. As I mentioned, I am a CPA, but I'm not in public practice. So I'm not as current on all the current rules with CRA. And I said, I know the questions to ask, and sort of looking to the technical folks like yourselves to make sure that we're executing properly on the technical side to take advantage of how we can minimize tax on the succession. And where we come in is look at, okay, now how do we practically and pragmatically actually make the changes and have the succession happen so that we're doing it orderly and in a way that makes sense, so that we have a successful transition. And so that transition in and for the new owners or the next generation, and the transition out for the older generation. And in our family business, my father-in-law is 87 years old, and he is still a part of the family business, but his role is definitely different than it was 35 years ago.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. So, okay, well, what is the best piece of business advice that you have ever received?
Best piece of business advice that I've ever received is that knowing that your way is a way. And it is one of many ways in which you can achieve the goal. And so really that open-mindedness, being open to other ways of achieving a goal and achieving an outcome. And I think that that rule is a great one in business, but it works in your personal life too. If you get so tied up with your way being the right way and the only way, it often comes into some friction in marriages as well as in businesses and with other relationships. It's let's just kind of be curious and consider that individual's opinion or way of doing things, this might have some merit.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we're sort of coming to the end here, I guess. So what are action steps that, anyone watching this could do, if they were kind of in a succession situation or, consulting situation? What are some steps that they should do based on the advice that you've given today?
Well, I would say it's never too early to start planning your exit. So come in and have a consultation with an exit planner like ourselves. We do complimentary consultations all the time. You're going to get a complimentary sort of benchmark of where you're at in your business, and it can really fine tune your efforts for the next 5 years or 10 years of your business, so that we can get you to the point where you're enjoying your business earlier in the lifetime of your business, and instead of waiting until you're ready to retire to start getting out of the chaos and start enjoying the business. It's like waiting till you're going to sell your house to finally put the doors on. Put them on a little bit earlier so you can enjoy the privacy and enjoy that life. So it's really, it's really easy to get started with us. We have lots of complimentary consultations and ways that you can do some assessments to sort of get started. And I just say get started and having those conversations with all the family members who are impacted by the succession of the business or the transition of the business owner, which is usually more people than they think.
Hmm. Oh, well, that's excellent. So, Laura, where can people go to learn more about you and your business? I see your sign here, ProVision Business Advisors. Laura
Yeah,
Bechard.
you can find us at our website is provisioncoaching.ca, and you can find me on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, and LinkedIn are our primary social platforms. And happy to have anybody reach out and book a complimentary discovery call with us. And it's just a way of getting started.
Excellent. Well, Laura, thank you so much. Really appreciate this interview and your time. And we'll be in touch in the near future.
Thanks, Brian. My pleasure.
Thanks. Bye for now.